And I pulled out my money and they gave me a rack of chips. And I went and I remember I sat down the first day and I looked around. And you ever like look at people and they just don't look bright? You can just tell like these people.
Every day.
Yeah, every day.
Me and my buddy, we make it all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money.
Let's roll. Welcome back to the Table One podcast. Art Parman, Justin Young, very special guest today.
I'm pretty sure it's David Williams.
I'm pretty sure it's David Williams. Welcome to the Table One podcast.
I was surprised he responded to your text too. Like it's.
I had to work my way in through the Twitter DMs.
Yeah.
You know?
I was pretty quick to respond.
Very quick, surprisingly quick.
Yeah, well, I think it's because tweets or accounts you've interacted with, I think, show up because I have it where it doesn't alert me, but like a lot of things go to the filter. If it's like a random guy asking me for a buy-in for something, like, hey, can I get a buy-in? I'm struggling. I'm like, who the fuck are you? But for accounts you've either looked at, followed, I think it just shows up because yours just popped up, and I was like, oh, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
So
lucky you, Art.
Yeah, well, it wasn't me, it was us.
Oh, sorry.
Number one fan, David Williams. He's interacted with us, guys.
So I'm sure you've seen every episode, but just in case you have not, typically what we do is kind of just like take our viewership back to when you were a tiny David Williams and like kind of like how you got into gambling, cards.
Tiny.
Yeah. Yeah. Compact.
Somebody responded to an interview a few weeks ago that I posted, and somebody commented yesterday, David Williams eating good. And I was like, damn. I was like, I had that cut deep. I know what he meant. I was like,
I'll make sure I send you all of the fat jokes in the comments.
I was like, damn, I didn't know what to say.
I mean, you're the same age as me. We're both 44. We're you get bigger and not much you can do about it.
I mean, also to be fair, your pinned tweet is a list of food options in Las Vegas.
I keep thinking about like if I could just buckle down for 3 months and eat grilled chicken and rice, not rice, vegetables, just grilled chicken and vegetables. 3 months straight, I could cut 30 pounds, be back to, and I'm like, fuck, man.
That doesn't sound like fun though.
Yeah,
Food is so
the Matt
good.
Berkey diet.
Food is so good. I'm like, it's just, what am I gonna do?
Like
Egg whites, chicken breast.
I mean, I want to so bad.
so many of my college friends, every time we meet up, they lose so much weight, and they're like, "What did you do?" And they're like, "Oh, I just stopped drinking for 6 months." I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to do that." So like,
give me another.
What are my other options? They're like, "You could just eat better and work out." I'm like, no, give me more.
Yeah, I thought about Ozempic, and they're like, "Yeah, it makes you not want to eat." I'm like, "Well, that doesn't work either."
Defeats the process.
I'm not going to do
Art fired that off. He did Ozempic.
I did do Ozempic for like 7 or 8 months. Oh, it worked, but then I just kind of went cold turkey and I put like 15 pounds back on. But you know, I'm still kind of in the wheelhouse of success right now.
Yeah.
I think I'm down 15 to 20 from peak. So you know, we'll take it. I just gotta, you know.
All right, I'll cut you off. You were saying.
Oh no, we're compact, tiny David Williams is where we're going. I know a lot of people out there that watched the 2004 coverage. Like they did a reasonable job of your backstory or whatever. But for those who didn't see that,
it's 20 years ago.
Yeah, I know. But like as a fanboy anyway, like I don't know. I definitely watched all that coverage every second.
That was when poker was amazing on TV.
Yeah, it was so good.
It was so good.
But so you kind of got into poker, I don't want to say accidentally, but like you started off with Magic the Gathering first. That was the passion?
Kind of. That's where I kind of discovered Hold'em and No Limit Hold'em. But so my mom actually and my grandparents, they were all gamblers. My mom had a Tonk game at the house.
I love Tonk.
When I was little. She was part of like a rotating neighborhood Tonk game where like somebody would host it each week and the host could make some money. And I remember I was probably 8, 7, young, and I would watch, and then like she would go to the bathroom and be like, play my hands. And I would come back and I was crushing, and she was just like, yeah, thanks. And then people would go to the bathroom and want me to like sub in and play the hands.
They were pretending to be in the bathroom. They were sitting there staring at the
hey, little kid, I'm going to the bathroom. And I kind of just was involved in card gambling, you know, at a young age, which I think, you know, it's not really, you can't really get a game at 8. So didn't really have many opportunities, which has then led to Magic the Gathering. And I believe the year was 1997. I was 16 years old. It was right before my 16th birthday, because it was like February 97, or right before my 17th birthday. And some guys at a table were playing Hold'em. at the Queen Mary, which is like this hotel now, but it's where they had Magic tournaments too. And I remember I walked up, and there was a bunch of my friends. Normally we would play Magic for money, like 10, 20 bucks. And they were all sitting around with chips and cards, and they were, dealing. I was like, what the hell's this? I was like, this taunt game or something going on? And they were like, we're playing Texas Hold'em. I was like, all right, well, I'm from Texas, so tell me how's this go?
I went automatically, right?
How do you play? And they were like, well, it's $5 if you want to learn, you sit down. And I was like, all right, I got $5. And it was weird, because I remember it was like $5, but it wasn't a tournament. Like the blinds didn't go up, but you could like leave when you wanted, kind of like a cash game, but it wasn't dollar for. It was just freaking weird. And it ended up being like if you busted, you could just add more chips. So it ended up being me and this guy Matt Place, who is still a friend of mine. I don't keep up with him very much, but he's a Magic, or he's a Magic legend, but he is a game designer. Helped design Hearthstone, Storybook Brawl, the game that a lot of players played that kind of went under with FTX. He was a designer in that game. So he is back then he was a killer Magic player. He's a very good game player, and he was good at Hold'em, and it was limit Hold'em. This thing was all limit, so you just grind people out and quit, and it took forever. And it was me and him, and I remember he had all the heaps of chips, and I lost, and I bought $5 more. And finally, I started to make a comeback, and I was like, do you want to split the money and get out of here? It's late. And he was like, why would I split with you? He's like, you don't know what you're doing, and I'm good. And I was like, well, because it's two of us, and we can both make some money and leave. And he was like, no. So then this other guy who I still keep up with, Brian Hacker, he's a Magic player, a legend game designer, but he actually plays PLO 8 a lot, comes to the World Series. He was next to him, and he goes, just raise him without looking, and just never stop. And I was like, all right. So it was limit. So I just kept raising. And the guy, I was like raising in the dark. But obviously he didn't know. I whispered it to me.
Yeah.
And he just kept folding because he was over folding. And I just ran him over. And then when he finally would call, I would make something, And then eventually I crushed him, had all the money, and went home when I was like, man, that was awesome. And I went back to Dallas. And I was like, I went back to my like Magic game. And it was a bunch of like guys, various ages. Most were older than me. I was 16. Some of them were like older. And I remember, I'm like, where can I play this poker, this Hold'em I found? And none of them knew, except we had a Vietnamese guy in our Magic group. And the Vietnamese guys love to gamble. And the Vietnamese guy, his name was Min Nguyen, but spelled differently than Min the Master. Min, I still talk to him here and there. Min says, you want to play Hold'em? I got a spot for you. And I was like, really? He's like, of course. And he referred me to a place called the Redmond's Club, which is a legendary place. Doyle actually told me when we talked, he's like, that's the only club I'm loser at. He's like, I couldn't beat that place. It was ran by a guy named Ray Wolford, whose brother Cowboy Wolford got second in the main event, like myself, many years ago. I don't know who Cowboy got second to, but you can look it up. He's a legend. And TJ Cloutier played there, another main event runner-up. It was like a main event runner-up saloon, Right. And it had all these pictures on the wall, but like real pictures, not like paintings, but like pictures of just random old road gamblers like hanging out. Mm-hmm. It was a very historic place. And I went down there, 16 years old, a couple $100 in my pocket. He goes, just tell him I sent you. Random shopping center in Garland, Texas. I pull up, looking around, it's kind of weird, they have a camera at the door. I hit a buzzer. And they're like, hello? And I'm like, want to play some cards? Poker? They're like, who sent you? And I was like, Min Nguyen. They're like, come on in. And I'm thinking, man, I'm not old enough. And they're like, son, you got cash? That's your ID.
That's
and I was like, okay. So I'm like, what do we have? And they're like, we have a 5-10 Hold'em game over there. And I was like, perfect. And I pulled out my money, and they gave me a rack of chips. And I went, and I remember I sat down the first day, and I looked around. And you ever like look at people and they just don't look bright? You can just tell like these people.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. I looked around, I'm like, these people aren't very sharp. I could just see it. And then we started playing. I'd only played like one time. I had no experience other than that thing at the Magic tournament. And I was just crushing them. And I was like, this is easy. Is this what poker is? Like, these guys fucking suck.
What time do the good players show up?
I smashed these guys. It was like just the most casual of people who were just chased. Like every hand was like you'd raise and get like 6 callers because limit Hold'em. But through playing, like just playing better cards, bluffing at the right moments, whatever, the cream rises, and I had all the money. And I was just going there, and then eventually I started playing a 15-30-08 game. They had a tournament every Wednesday I started kind of dabbling in, but I wasn't really into it was like a $30 buy-in no limit Hold'em tournament just to get people here and then break into the cash games. Nobody cared about no limit hold'em in like '97, other than the main event. So I just focused on the limit hold'em and the limit '08, and then occasionally I would play the big PLO game, which was $500 buy-in, but I would just get smoked and then go back to the limit hold'em or the '08. And that was it. I mean, that was how it started.
So you just got exposed to all these games with like no knowledge. It was just like, they look like morons, and
So I mean,
I'm
like,
pretty, and like here we go.
The limit hold'ems. So I mean, the limit hold'em was it, and then the Omaha, just because it was bigger, there was no bigger limit hold'em. Like 15-30, how do you play? Like you get 4. They told me, again, the players weren't very good.
Yeah.
You know, pretty tight, and being aggressive back in the late '90s was the key to all poker. If you just raised, people would just he must have it. And they would muck. They would muck. So I think I just steamrolled my way to a bankroll. Just kept raising people. I was like, this is fucking great. You know, and then I go to the PLO game where that didn't really work because it was a lot of guys like Keith Lear, who's still around. A lot of guys were in that game. Keto Pham is a legend from PLO. He was there back in the day, and some other guys you'll see around still who play PLO. So that shit didn't work in the PLO. I go to the PLO game, try to raise them, and they would just call and have the nuts, and I'm like, oh, I'm dead. Oh, cool. All right, enjoy my 500. See y'all later, and then go back to the limit games and run them over.
All right, real quick. Do you have crypto just sitting in a crypto wallet doing nothing? Then you've probably never heard of Gauntlet. Gauntlet.xyz is a $1 billion research company that manages risk for huge internet platforms like Uniswap, Arbitrum, Jupiter, and a ton of other ones. And how can they help you? They actually curate these things called crypto vaults. And what's a crypto vault? Well, you just put your crypto in, you get an interest rate. The interest rate depends on the supply and demand of that particular token that you put into there. It's kind of complicated, but their algorithms make it like 1,000 poker solvers are working on your side. And you get a return on crypto that was just sitting in your wallet anyway. Here, let me show you how it works. I've got 800 USDC here. I'm gonna put it into this USDC vault. The current interest APY is a little over 9%. So I'm gonna get that for a little bit and I can take it out whenever I want. Now, as you can see, they have a bunch of different vaults, a bunch of different tokens. Do your own research on all of this, which one appeals to you, but definitely don't let your crypto just sit in your wallet doing nothing. It could be here earning for you. So if you've got USDC or USDT, which if you're a poker player, you probably do, you're gonna wanna have it sitting in one of these vaults earning something for you. So head on over to gauntlet.xyz/T1 and it'll take you right to the vault page. You'll be able to check out which one looks good to you. All right, back to the show.
So that's how it started, and then eventually tournaments kind of naturally progressed.
Well, I was going to bring that up because like most people we have on anyway, and I think most people's poker careers, you can kind of see the progression. Like, you know, when they were 21, they cashed for $800, and 22, like they got over 1,000. But no, your first cash is just the World Series main event. Like
that was my second like actual no limit hold'em tournament. Like I'd played the random $30 thing they would have on Wednesdays, and then another club I played at, the American Legion, would have like a $25 with rebuy no limit tournament, and I literally hated it, didn't know what the hell I was doing, would kind of just quickly lose to get back to the limit game. I was like, okay, they have this thing to bring people in. There were no real resources on it. It wasn't something I was interested in. Even when I played on Paradise Poker eventually, I was limit hold'em is all we played. And Ultimate Bet started out with limit hold'em. And then I decided, I think one year, I guess it would be a little before the Moneymaker year, I started playing the occasional no limit tournament online because it was fun. A lot of my friends were playing, a lot of the Magic players. But the Moneymaker year, when it came on TV, because that was the year before I played, I was like, this is pretty damn cool. Watching ESPN, I was like, this is fun. I was like, I think I'm gonna play that main event next year. I've got a bankroll that's pretty big from playing 15-30-08 now. That was the game I was playing more often than not. I was like, I'll play it this year, but I'm gonna play some more no limit tournaments to kind of practice on the sites. I won a satellite on PokerStars. It was a double shootout, and I was in my apartment in Dallas, won the satellite, was like, oh, won a main event seat. I saved the 10,000, I remember. And there was this bookie, Danny, who, when I told I was going to the World Series that year, was like, okay, kid, I'm gonna take half of you. And I was like, all right, sure. So when I won the seat, I went back and was like, hey, I won a seat online. I don't really need you to take half. And he laughs. He's like, I was just doing you a favor. I'm glad you got it. I didn't want to. He's like, you don't know shit about no limit, kid, which is funny because that didn't work out well for him. But he was like, good luck. I'm glad I'm out of it. You know, he was happy to like not have to give me 10,000 or 5,000 or whatever the deal was. Because I remember when I came back, he was like, oh God, what happened? But so I hadn't played any like actual real no limit tournaments. And then I went to the World Series that year a week early, and I wanted to get like just get my bearings, play a no-limit tournament. I played, I think it was a 3K, maybe 2,500 no-limit tournament. And I remember I was super nervous because it was at Binion's downtown. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
That was my first year too.
Yeah, it's like a real tournament. Yeah. And God, what's his name? I can't remember his name.
Context clues.
Ann Tran, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It might have been.
There was an Ann Tran.
I think I'm in a pot with him, and I remember I was so excited because I had ace king and got re-raised, and I called, I flopped an ace and got the money in, and they just had 3 aces. And I was like, oh, no limit hold'em, huh? And I like walked out of there dizzy. I was there for like level 1. You know, obviously now when someone's willing to get all the chips, actually you didn't have that, they weren't that deep back then. It was dollar for dollar. But
yeah, that was,
I got all the money in right away and was like, wow, that's it, no limit hold'em, huh? $2,500, $3,000 gone in 10 minutes. So I was like, oof, okay. And I guess I'm ready for the main event. And I was
good practice.
Yeah,
good run.
super
Good run.
nervous coming into it.
So what was your bankroll around this time? Because you said you built up a roll by playing 1530. I mean, that's still like that's a.
I'm curious about that 16
I had
to
a couple
21.
$100,000 to be honest. I had about $200,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were just playing that club all day, every day?
Well, you have to think, right? This was 04 when the main event happened. I started playing at 97. So this is 7 years of just like playing and grinding and like saving what I win, having a bankroll, paying my bills. Like 7 years, sure, it's a lot of money, but over 7 years, it ain't the biggest bankroll.
Okay, that's fair, but you're also 17 to 23, probably the dumbest you're going to be in I mean, not in the game, but like outside of
life
the game.
decisions. I mean, well, I did go to college in there, and I stopped playing, and then I dropped out of college, came back, you know, decided to dabble in poker again, started saving, had a job as a waiter, was still playing Magic. I mean, I had a lot of things going on, but I'd never really been reckless with money at the, you know, I mean, like obviously after I won the money at the World Series, I made some purchases but I was still smart with that. But I never really was like, I didn't have leaks, I didn't sports bet. I don't like play the pit, even though I couldn't play the pit at 17. We didn't have the pit back then. I would take a shot in the PLO game, but there was no huge game to really blow it at.
You're just going to lose 500 and leave.
The game I'm in was so easy. I couldn't really lose there. I didn't even have a car at the time back then. Like I shared a car with my girlfriend, and it was like her car because I just didn't want to buy a car. I was so frugal.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're just a little frugal.
I didn't spend money on food like I spend money on now. I ate Denny's, you know what I mean? I was like Denny's and Taco Bell.
I couldn't imagine like dating you and you're just like, oh yeah, I got $200,000, but why don't we just chop a Tercel? What do you think?
I mean, she had a Mitsubishi Eclipse. It was a little white Mitsubishi Eclipse, and it was kind of a piece of junk, but it worked. And we saw no reason to get another car, you know, at like 21. We got one. We lived together. We didn't really do much, so it worked.
I mean, good for you, by the way.
Yeah, saving the money. Just put it with the rest. So like, we got to play more poker.
I feel like there's 98% of other David Williams out there in the universes that.
I mean, what would I have spent money on back then other than a car? I can't really think about it. I had rent, and rent was cheap. I remember my rent was like $500 for my apartment, and my cousin was my roommate, and then I had a girlfriend. So like.
I don't know about you, Justin, but when I was 19 and I cashed for $3,000 in the 3 rebuy online, I quit college and I was like, I got this. And I bought, I had like 20,000 saved up. It wasn't even saved up. It was gifted to me from my grandmother, and I spent it all on a car. I'm like, money's free. So there's plenty of ways to fuck it off, David.
I understand. Like when you say like there's nothing to spend money on, yeah, there is. You could buy your own car instead of sharing one. You could get your own apartment instead of sharing one.
It might have been my car that she was. I might have bought the car, but it was cheap. It was like $12,000. I might have just bought it for both of us. I'm like, okay, here we go. We bought some used Mitsubishi. Let's just drive it. And like the apartment, yeah, I probably could have got our own, but you know, my cousin was like my best friend, and it was like a cool. Nice. We would stay up all night playing Madden. You know, yeah, I spent money on an Xbox or whatever. It's like, but yeah, there was nothing really to spend money on. I don't know. I didn't really care about flashy clothes. Like eventually I did when I got money, but at the time, nothing really. I like to game. You know, I like to play games, Magic, poker.
Yeah, that's true. I guess if you're.
And my hobbies made money. Magic made money.
I was gonna say, if you're just a purist and like your vices are things that make you money, then it's tough to lose money.
It does seem like a lot of the most successful people in the world, the money is just keeping score in the game that they're playing.
So. Yeah, I was just ready to game more. It's like, okay.
Just a quick break here, guys. Are you tired of playing with players like this? Not this. Like this? Or this?
Or do you want to play with players like this?
Oh, wait.
If you like having fun at the poker table, Table 1 is the game for you. We play high stakes, no limit, 100 blinds. And if you want to get into the game, it's actually super easy. We have a website, table1.vegas. You just go to the website, you click get a seat in the game, and fill out the form. It's that easy. It's your name, it's your phone number, it's the date that you're here, and I will personally reach out to you.
And it's only $5K minimum buy-in. You know, run it up at 2.5 and join us. So do you still, I don't want to get too far into it, but like at some point there was a tipping point of you playing more poker than Magic the Gathering, or was it kind of like a lot of 50-50 and then just for a while?
So I would say, so I got banned and suspended from Magic for 1 year, which at the time was the worst thing that happened to me because I was I was falsely accused of cheating. Circumstance looked bad. I kind of get why they have to kind of err on the side of, well, we don't know your intentions, so you're banned for a year.
Because you had
my cards were bent. Yeah, my cards were bent, and they were claiming I was cutting to them. We can get into that. I mean, look, if I were cheating, I'm 44 years old. I would say, yeah, I was a dumb kid. I was cheating. It wasn't. Like, it was a shitty thing. It almost, like, I was depressed because
I'm sure.
If you can imagine being accused of something you didn't do and something that means so much to you, and then that's also taken away from you, the prize money's taken away from you. In that tournament, it was the World Championships. I had a shot at winning, becoming the world champion, the player of the year. That was taken away. The shame of people, you don't know if they believe you or not. Even some of your friends are like, yeah, I believe you, and you wonder if they're like, yeah, fucking guy's a cheater. Right. All that fucked me so hard mentally that I thought this was the worst thing ever. I mean, I was suicidal at a point, and I was like, I wish there was a way. I always would say, like, I hope that when I die, whatever the entity that exists or happens, they explain to me what actually happened, and everyone around gets the answer, even though now I realize it's the least important thing to them. But I was so traumatized because I was trying to figure out, like, what the fuck happened. But because of that, I was forced to take a year off Magic. Like, I could still play for fun, but I couldn't go to tournaments, couldn't travel, couldn't play the big events. What do you do? I was like, I guess I'll just play some poker. Like,
this other card game.
I'll put my focus there and play more poker. And all of a sudden, that's kind of where the priority was. So when I got unsuspended, I was right back into Magic, but my heart wasn't the same as it was. And it went from like Magic here, poker here, to like this, and just kind of started growing more and more, because now I'm actually making real money in one. Whereas Magic back then, now I can't speak on it now, but back then the money you would make at Magic still wasn't enough to really progress in life unless you are the legit best player in the world. And even then, the guy who's the best, who won like 6 out of 7 events, still only lifetime made less than like people who just win like a circuit event. You know, like a circuit main, 300,000, they have more than that guy. You know what I mean? So it's like, I started to realize, look, if I want to actually go somewhere in life, dedicating my life to Magic, like, it's a great hobby, it's fun, but I'm never going to make money to be an adult and have adult life with the way things were at the time. I need to do something else. So poker became the focus.
So what year were you suspended from
2001.
Magic? Okay, all right.
September 2001 to September of 2002.
That could be like the best thing that ever happened to you.
I look back and I say it really is. I say, other than my daughter being born, if you take those kind of things away, that was the best and worst day of my life. People say, what was the best day of your life? What was the worst day of your life? Both of those. Like, it's the same day.
That's a good answer. So we've had a few deep runners in the main event on our pod, and I'm always curious to ask, because like, I know a lot of it's a blur. I know you're like getting like 4 hours of sleep every night, but like, can you kind of just like a quick rundown, like after day one, how are you feeling? Because like, you hadn't cashed a tournament really, I mean, like a real tournament before or anything like that. And so like, you know, like, what was it? Excitement. Like, believe me, my first year was 2004 as well. Like, I didn't sleep a wink the day before. In fact, I played 20-40 limit hold'em the entire night until 5 a.m. the night before. Like, I couldn't sleep the night after day one. Like, I couldn't imagine, just as a 24-year-old, or 23, I guess you were. But
so the night before, so I was actually staying. So my friend, I have a friend, still one of my best friends in the world, Bob Maher. He's a Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer, super legend, doesn't play much poker. His parents had the sickest thing you've ever seen, a compound here in Vegas. They actually ended up selling it to Steve Wynn, and then right after his divorce, he tried to sell it back, and they were like, no, because it was so big. It had like multiple houses and like multiple pools. They had this insane compound as like their Vegas home, and they let me and my other best friend, who's here now, my partner in the sports betting business, Noah Boken. Because Noah was a Magic player, we were best friends. Yep, exclusive, from PokerStars. They let me and Noah stay there for the World Series because money, we didn't want to buy a hotel. Even though I had the bankroll, we might as well stay at a friend's. But this place, you would want to stay over a hotel anyways. There's like a maid, there's staff. So me and Noah stayed there. And the night before, I remember we were in the jacuzzi, nervous as hell. And we're just talking about, man, we're playing No Limit Hold'em. Can you believe it? Like the main event. And he had the Card Player magazine of that month, and it had Martin Deniff on it. And Martin had just won the WPT World Championship the month before for $2.5 million. And I remember we were looking at it, and he's like, can you believe it? We could win millions tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but the tournament. Yeah. And we made a deal. We were like, if either of us make 7 figures, we're going to go back, because we had went to a sushi restaurant called Shintaro at the Bellagio. I don't know if you remember it. They had a teppanyaki sushi restaurant called Shintaro where Yellowtail is. Okay. Super high-end expensive. We went in there and they were like, Toro. We're like, what's Toro? MP? They're like, market price. We're like, what's that? They go, it's $50 a piece at the time. It was $50 for 1 piece of nigiri, not a 2-piece. It's cheaper now. It was $50 for a piece of nigiri. So we ordered 2, 1 each. And we ate it and thought it was incredible, but $50, a lot of money, we're not gonna be eating it. So we made a deal in the hot tub. If either of us cashes over 7 figures, we're going back to that fucking place and we're getting $1,000 of Toro, 20 pieces, and we're eating 10 pieces each, steak on it. And we did a little 3% swap, 4% swap, but we're going back if we win $1 million, which we both thought was impossible.
Yeah, this is like, yeah.
And the funny side note about that is Martin was our inspiration, and the goal was to win more than Martin. Mm-hmm. Got second for 3.5, won more than Martin. But also, that tournament ended up being so special to me because I won that same tournament, the WPT World Championships.
That's right.
I won it 6 years later, which was also a goal of mine, but we'll come back to that. So the night before,
I was there.
We're pumped. Yeah, we're pumped for the main event. Show up at Binion's. More people than they've ever seen. Insane. They don't even have seats. I remember my table was 10-handed. Mm-hmm. It was in the front of a lobby in front of this. They had if you go on Fremont Street, how you can walk into the hotels off Fremont Street, we were up against that door playing. Fire marshals came in. We're like, nope, this is not going to work. Made us get up, but the tournament didn't stop. Clock didn't stop. We had to get up, had our chips in a bag just standing here. Clock running. They're like, we don't have seats. When we get seats for you guys, we're going to fucking open up some tables. Okay, cool. Holding my chips in a bag. Finally, they open up some tables like at the Golden Nugget across the street. They have some on Fremont outside. I get a table inside. They just make us 11-handed. We're 11-handed, just crammed in. And I remember I got queens, and I was so scared. And this guy 3-bet me. And I just called, and he ended up having kings, and we both check. We're both fucking terrified. And I lose the minimum with queens. And I was like, okay, this is cool. People are scared. And I just started 3-betting people after that and just kept 3-betting. And I just finished the day, though, because it didn't quite work out. I think you started with 10,000, was dollar for dollar. I think I finished the day with 9,800. But I was just happy to be in day 2. But I was kind of bummed because I looked at the list at the end of the night, and a guy named Mike Lang. I don't remember that guy, Mike Lang, always drinking.
The Clown Prince of Poker.
Fucking
That's right.
drunk off his ass. He was chip leading, I remember, after day 1. And he had 40,000. And I'm like, wow, how sick. And I showed up on day 2. I think Noah busted. He made a day 2, but busted. My mom was on the rail, and right away I get all in with jacks. And the crazy, when I think back on how the hand went, the action, everybody went all in. And I'm like, I'll go all in too. And it was a guy with ace king and a guy with aces. It's so obvious that my jacks are no good, but I'm like, I has jacks. I'm in with you. And aces, ace king. I'm like, oh damn. And the fucking jack comes. My mom on the rail, wow, starts going nuts. Noah's screaming. The poor guy with aces has to want to kill himself, It's fucking day 2 of the main event, and some people were going nuts like they won the lottery. I doubled up, and then from there, it was just steady, just start raising people. And I was fortunate things went well and finished day 2 with a lot more chips. And then each night, like you say, it was like a zombie. I remember my friend Bob's dad was at the house, the one who was staying there. He would pick me up each night, and we would drive back to the compound. Nothing would be open because the nights were late as hell back then. It would go to 2 in the morning, and we would stop. So the compound was on Alta over in Rancho Bel Air area. There's a Del Taco right there at Alta and Charleston or whatever. That Del Taco right up the highway to Wendy's. We would stop at that Del Taco. I would get some, a couple tacos because I wouldn't eat during the tournament. No food from noon to 2 a.m. I would get tomato juice, no ice, water, and Coca-Cola. Those are the 3 things I consumed throughout the day. because I needed a little food from the tomato juice, some water to stay hydrated, and Coke for the caffeine. And I smoked Newports at the time. I don't smoke anymore. So I'm on break, just killing Newports, drinking the Coke and the fucking tomato juice,
Chugging tomato juice.
playing like a zombie. You know, each break I'm out there just hitting the cigarette, go back in, and then the night would be over. His dad would pick me up, stop at Del Taco, get a couple tacos, try to sleep, wake up, repeat for like 6 straight days. And it was just nothing but that. Mom was staying on the strip, would come down and sweat. Noah would come sweat, but then eventually he would go play because wasn't like today, you know, sweating at Binion, standing on the rail. It was kind of boring.
It was awful.
Mom could do it.
Just like today, actually.
Sweating. But my boy would like, I'm going to play. I'll keep me updated, you know, like send me a text. I'll be watching when you get deeper. And like you say, it was, I mean, I don't even remember a lot of that feeling. I wish I could kind of have a time machine and just feel it again and be, and,
If you could bottle
and
it.
appreciate the moment. Because I don't remember the moment. I watch it, I'm like, wow, I don't even remember that. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, you definitely can't beat running deep in a poker tournament, but like it's crazy. You can't remember I don't know that just like being scared excited every time you look down at 2 cards.
I was in such a weird zone, and I don't think I've ever really been in that zone again until that WPT that I won, where like it's almost like it was like I was on autopilot. Like I just was like kind of moving and don't remember a thing. It was so crazy.
So what day did the ESPN start following you or start doing like backstories on you?
So that's the funniest thing about it. I was never at the feature table until 10 players. For some reason, I just didn't end up on a table, even when it was like 5 tables, 6 tables, 3.
Yeah.
I was never at the featured table. So there's not a lot of footage of me before the 10 other than random like vignettes of me at the side table. Oh, this kid's mom is screaming. But then actual, like, and here's another all in, and then we go to the other table. But there were no hands of strategy and decision making. It was like they would cut to me being all in again and then go away, which is a little disappointing because all you see is like, oh, he's all in again and he won. You don't get to see like, how did he get chips?
He ran so good.
Yeah, you didn't see me and JC Tran actually remember, we still joke about this. We ended up at the same table against each other and we had this weird leveling war where I 7-bet shoved on him. Yeah, it was the weirdest shit.
This is way before 7-bet shoving.
This
was a
didn't
thing,
happen.
by the way.
It was like raise, click, 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 and I shoved. And he was like, fuck. And then when he folded, I showed him an ace, and I'm like, I had it. And then after we talked like at the Commerce later, and I'm like, I had ace-7. He's like, I had ace-6. He's like, I was gonna shove, but he's like, and you shut me off, and you just shoved. Before. He's like, I should have. And he's like, I knew you were fucking around, and I knew you knew I was fucking around. And I was like, yeah, man, something just felt weird about it. And we just kept clicking, and finally I just shoved.
That was like the very beginning of like the stage where the last person to be all or the first person to be all in just wins.
Well, the best is when I showed him the ace. He's like, yeah, I knew it. I had kings. I'm like, I had aces. And like we both lied, and then we see to the Commerce, and he's like, I had ace-6. I'm like, I had ace-7. He's like, all right. But the whole table was like, they must have aces and kings.
No, exactly
no one
right.
does this. Like, what?
I would say that didn't become popular till like 2008 to 10 to 12, like in that range or whatever. Like clicking wasn't a thing. If you got 3-bet, it's like 10s probably aren't good here because it's jacks plus, ace king plus.
Floating wasn't a thing. The term didn't exist, but people didn't do the move.
Right.
And I'm not trying to say like I invented it, but it's something I figured out in that tournament. Right. I'm like, wow, if I just call here, I had jack shit. I'm like, I just raise the turn depending on what comes, and people would just muck. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And I think I just did that like once every orbit. And because you never get called, and everybody just gave everybody credit,
That's right.
they were like, wow, this guy, you hold a lot of hands, kid. A lot of old men would say, and I'd be like, just lucky, you know, and just dragging the chips. And
Aces
like,
again.
no one had it. I mean, I remember I 3-bet multiple times. People showed me queens and mucked when I would 3-bet or 4-bet them. Yeah. And they would just be like, whoa. And they would just show the queens. I'm like, good fold. And I was like, this is insane. Like, are people really this passive?
Yeah, poker used to be
it used to be easy and fun. Yeah, that's back when I used to win too. Yeah.
I actually remember my very first cold 4-bet. It was Jack-9 suited, and it was at a final table, and I think it was against Adam Levy. Ruthless.
Oh yeah, Ruthless. Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I could just raise here and
he's kind of nitty, so that's actually. I mean that works against him a lot.
Yeah. Well, it was at a final table when I decided to pull that one out of the bag. I was like, all right, well, it's a raise and a re-raise, but I mean, I'm never gonna do this without aces, right? Like I would just never.
Yeah.
And I don't want to fold this hand. Anyway, back to your story.
Yeah, I mean,
back to him winning $3.5 million. Sorry to ruin your.
No. I'm thinking about Ruthless. I feel bad because I love Ruthless, and I mean that as an insult. The guy's an idiot. It works because people just call him, and he has it, and he makes the money. So, no disrespect if you watch this Ruthless.
And he will. But yeah, I mean that's like a third of poker players even today. They're just like, knowing they're going to play tight, solid, and especially in tournaments, because like you just get away with it because there's no.
I mean, I can say this now because people don't believe me. How I play now and how I used to play on TV is polar. I'm so fucking nitty, and people don't understand. And then I just have it, and they're like, "Oh, I had to call you there," you know. And I'm like, "You did, you know." And I'm like, "I got a 20-year reputation, but
I bluffed you the last time.
People have no idea. I don't bluff anymore. I literally have it every time. I'm like, yeah, I just have it.
We might have to edit that part out, guys.
You can leave it because I say it, and people still think I'm lying. People still call me, and I'm just like, got it. And they're just like, what? I'm like, when was the last time I bluffed or showed nothing? Like, people don't realize. Whatever, I'll take it.
So after, whatever, we all know you got second place to Greg Raymer. It was a very entertaining final table. I watched it multiple times. I still probably pull it out every 18 months in all honesty.
I watched it a year ago with my girlfriend I've been with for 4 years. I'd never seen it. And I was like, you want to see something cool? And we watched it one night.
You've never seen it before?
No, I had. She had.
Geez,
We've been together for almost 4 years.
Okay, yeah.
She'd heard about it all. She doesn't know much about poker. She started, and I was like, we were actually looking up something else, and then it came up a Poker Go because they have all the old episodes of Poker Go.
Yeah.
She was like, is that you? And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, you want to see it? I was going to show her a clip. 6 hours later, we're like watching every episode, and she's like, oh, my God, that's so cool. So we watched it all recently, but it holds up. It's cool.
So after all that, and I'm sure the final table was its own kind of bag of worms as far as emotions go and whatnot. If you want to get into that,
very cool trivia. Every hand that I was involved in, where someone was all in, myself or my opponent, my final hand was a full house.
Oh,
and I eliminated 3 people, and I had a full house every time, and I lost with a full house.
that's right. Yeah.
Because I even got in against Dan Harrington when I knocked him out. I had 2s and 3s. River was a 3. Even though it was inconsequential,
Right.
He had an open-ended straight draw, but I finished with a full house. When I knocked out the other guy, I had aces, and he had ace-10. It flopped an ace, and I made aces full. Every hand where my all-in or they were all-in, I finished with a full house. It was kind of cool. I was like, well, I didn't even notice
So you've
that.
always had it.
Yeah.
I've always had it. I mean, I had it there every
You had
time.
a deck
too.
read.
When I was all in against
Sure, I'm
Josh,
gonna make a full house here.
my 3 5s made 5s full of aces.
Yeah.
Like every hand I was all in, I made a full house, which was kind of cool.
So, what was the camaraderie like with some of the younger guys versus the older guys at that final table? We had Josh on a couple months ago as well. I don't think I brought this question up, but I'm just more curious because the young guard back then was, I'm sure the same way probably we view the young guard now, but whatever. I don't know, was it animosity at all, or was it just you guys are running good? And
I think, back then, it's way different because now a lot of the younger guys, it's almost like disrespectful. Like the older guys are they're outdated. They kind of the opinion they hold. Whereas back then, all the older guys were legends.
Yeah,
like we
you
looked up to them.
Yeah, right.
Dan Harrington was a legend. I was like, holy shit, this guy's here. Raymer, not an older guy at the time. He was his early 30s or whatever. Didn't know him. And then Al Crux, legend.
Yeah, legend.
I even knew who the guy was. I looked him up. I'm like, these guys are legends. So it was more excited and honored to see and play with these guys, and it was scary. And as far as camaraderie, no, there weren't really cliques yet in friendships in poker. Even though I met Josh and we became friendly, he was kind of he had Eric, who he already knew, but it wasn't in that tournament a lot of people. I didn't have anybody I knew. No one really everybody was just kind of on their own, doing their own thing. But the old guys were definite legends. I mean, it was an honor to play with them. It was sick.
that's cool.
Yeah, it was like, oh my God. Even after, I remember at that final table, Chris Ferguson was watching and he came up and I have a photo of me and Chris afterwards talking, getting to meet him. And at the time I was so excited to meet him and Negreanu was there and I was like, oh my God, what's up? It was to just see all these guys was so crazy.
Yeah, honestly, I could probably talk to you about this final table this entire pod. But
yeah, it was sick.
All right, really quick, guys. Phenom Poker is out now. It is live. If you want to get extra tokens, 100 extra tokens, and if you want to support Table 1, just go to joinphenompoker.com, and that will help us. Fill in your information, and you'll be on with us.
And if it's after October 7th, still go to Phenom Poker. The site will be launched, and there'll be tons of people on there, tons of action, especially until Art and I will run out of money, I think.
That's true. And we are doing some sort of free roll. Anyone who signs up through our link, we're going to eventually reveal the details on Twitter, but if you sign up through our link, we are going to go all in up to 10 times at $100 no limit until somebody wins the $100. We might stack you 10 times and you'll lose 1,000 in this promotion, but we are trying to give away 100. So if we accidentally stack you 10 times, thanks. Thanks for playing. All right, join phenompoker.com. Now!
So okay, you get $3.5 million. Your life has to change some. Like I hope you get your own car. Things of this nature.
I went from no car to a $200,000 Bentley. Yeah, we did it.
But like I have to imagine, and I'm putting myself in that spot. I do know some of the results you've had like directly after that. Like you just like dive into poker right away, or do you enjoy the money? Like are you traveling? Are you playing like every 10K you can find?
So the World Series was in end of May, and I went back to Dallas. Was kind of like, okay, where do we go from here? But there was, I think, something happening right away. July, maybe Bellagio, maybe Legends of Poker. I mean, I kind of went to everything. Like, would go back and forth. I was like, okay, what's next? I'm going, and it's especially because I signed a deal with Poker Royalty, who I'm still with. I'm one of their longest tenured clients.
Oh, wow.
It's like me and Antonio, I think, are the ones. I've been with them for 20 years. And Poker Royalty had so many opportunities for me. It's not like now. I mean, back then, every 10K, if you were somebody, you could get in for free. I mean, it's like there were sites willing to put you in a 10K, give you this, go play this. So, hey, free tournaments, I'm going. And it wasn't like even for a piece of your winnings. It was just like, put a patch on and you can go to a tournament. And he got me a deal with Bodog pretty early, but actually I had a pseudo deal with PokerStars before we finalized the Bodog deal. And they were like, come to our PCA, we'll pay for your whole trip, do this. So I played everything. Didn't really play much cash anymore because I didn't really have any interest because it was kind of a weird spot. Like, not going to go grind 1530, got millions in the bank. Not going to go play 2,000, 4,000. So guess I'll just play tournaments and they're free. So this is cool.
That's great.
So I just kind of went and traveled. And then I would say at about 6 months, I realized, why am I going back to Dallas, back to all over? Most of it was Vegas and LA. And I was like, I should just move to Vegas. And I ended up moving to Vegas early 2005.
Nice.
Yeah.
So during that trend, I think you had a second place finish at Borgata. Like, was that?
So that was the sickest thing. It was like very quickly, like right after that main event, I played in the Bellagio summer events, won like 1 or 2 prelims, and then went to the Borgata, played like, I think it was my first WPT 10K, and cruised through that one. I was just annihilating folks, like chip leading or close to chip leading every day, got to the final table. Daniel was there, who at the time was like my role model. I love the guy. Phil Ivey was there, who I'd become friends with over the summer. Josh was there, who I'd become friends with and was at that final table at the main event. And then I'm trying to think of the other 2 guys. One guy, was it Glenn, I think may have been there. This guy, I can't think of the last 2 guys, but it was 2 other people. Sick, oh no, I guess that's 6 of us. Pretty sick final table. I kind of ran him over. Daniel was running him over. We ended up getting heads up. I had the chip lead. Daniel beats my aces in a 6 spot to double back. Then eventually he gets aces and I flop top pair when we're shallow. I'm like, and then he slow rolls me, which was kind of brutal. I flop top pair, raise all in. He thinks for a while, and I'm like, okay, I got him. And he holds up the aces to the crowd. Should I? And then he goes like, call, and like sets down aces, and I'm like, what? Like on like king 8-7 or whatever. I think it was like king queen 3, and I had like king 8, and I'm just like, really?
So
You
it
got
wasn't
fucking
even
ace?
a net roll. He was just legitimately
Like,
slow
he
rolling.
was a
you.
showman.
Like
I mean,
hamming up in the crowd. He's like, you know, and he shows the crowd backward. And I'm like thinking, okay, what's he got here? A draw or something? Like, what is this? And he just sets down aces and wins. And I'm like, man. But it was cool because both our moms were there and we're both very close with our mothers at the time. And he was like my role model. I love the guy. And it's the only time I've ever lost something and still been truly happy for my opponent. Like usually I'm like, fuck this motherfucker when I lose. Like I hope they die on the way home. You know, like I don't mean it, but I'm like not happy. But for him, he had never won a WPT. It was cool to see, like, to be there and be a part of, like, my poker hero winning. And I was like, this is cool. Both of us, you know, took a photo together. We had dinner with our moms after. I still won $600,000. So I was like, just picked up another 600. This poker's easy, man. It's $4 million in 5 months. Like, this is the best shit in the world. These people suck. I'm gonna be a billionaire. I'm just gonna keep cracking these off every month. Like, what?
Isn't it crazy how like momentum just like builds in poker like that? There's the like Fedor Holtz run, epic run that he went on. Even like Scott Seaver, people winning like multiple bracelets like in a summer, just like
No, momentum is crazy. Because
it's a
I had a
real
killer
thing.
05 too, and like it was crazy. But I remember one of the coolest things that was after that tournament. So I had played with Chip Reese a lot in some tournaments and talked to him, and those guys all knew me because I was friends with Phil, and Phil hung out with them. And I remember Chip. Didn't come true, but Chip was like, man, you're the real fucking deal, kid. He's like, you're going to be something big. And they had this thing where you drafted players, and like they needed to draft young players. This league, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like this league that Maury put on, and you draft, and like Eli and Chip were a team.
I remember this. Yeah,
And they
yeah.
picked me.
Like the cities, like they had a captain or whatever.
They had a captain, and
Yeah,
they would
right.
draft.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
some league, and it was like very elitist. It was all
Yeah.
like the big names, and every team had to have a young gun. And Eli and Chip were captains, and they fought hard to put me on their team. And Chip was like, he came up to me, he's like, "I'm glad I got my guy." And even though, like, you know, I'm never elite. I never put that time and study. Look, that's not my goal. You know, I just want to make some money and have fun and enjoy my life. It was honored that at the time Chip saw something in me and thought I could have been great.
cool.
I was like, holy fuck, yeah, I'm the man. So that was just cool. I remember I think back on that, and I still think that was so awesome.
That is cool. Man with a painting at the Bellagio.
Yeah,
His picture
right.
on the wall. Said,
of
"You're gonna be somebody, kid."
Chip was great. No, I love Chip.
So you're just kind of cruising along, and like I don't want to dive 5 years like later into your WPT win. If there's anything between the 5 years like worth talking about, I don't know if there's like a slowdown for like traveling or like playing tournaments, or it's not like you weren't doing well, but like
Well, I mean, if you actually look though, I did have a dip, right? Like 05, 06, even part of 07, I was killing it, final tables,
Right.
crushing, winning. 08, 09, it started to decline, and I think I was just caught up too much in partying. Loved Vegas, loved women, and I was single, and I was young. I wasn't fat, like I am now. I had money, and I had swag, and I knew people, connections, and I was out every night on the hunt. I was having a blast, partying every night. I had my good group of friends, the Nad Medic, Serb, Grinder. We were in clubs every night, popping bottles. And the thing is, it was a lot cheaper than it was now too. Like I look at bottle prices and what I spent, and I got a lot of comps because I knew a lot of club promoters and club owners and managers. Who are a lot of friends of mine. I became very good friends with a lot of those people. So they gave me a lot of good deals, a lot of buy one get ones. If you bring people in, I was bringing people in. So it's not like I blew my money by any means. I still had my money, still have my money, but I wasn't really focused on advancing with poker. Like a lot of my other friends who I played Magic with, like Scott Seaver, Justin Bonomo, Isaac Haxton, these were my guys. We played Magic every day. Those guys, at that point, it's like we went this way, right? They loved poker, and they started studying poker, solvers, techniques, different things. Whereas I was like, poker's easy. I just raise. I'm partying, I put my focus somewhere else, and I think that's my results started to suffer at that time. And I don't regret it because I had a blast and where I am in life is amazing. But I think I could have continued a path to greatness and maybe been what Chip thought if I really put the studying into it. Because I was a very smart kid, went to a lot of higher education, very good at learning, and it was just something I just didn't want to do. I saw the work you had to put in to become elite at poker, and that just didn't interest me. Looking at charts, I was like, I don't want to memorize charts and 3-bet ranges and all this shit. Like, I have no interest in that.
or you put in zero effort, and I mean in your mind as any 27-year-old, you're like, or I could just do that and just make $1 million a year.
Yeah, do what I'm doing, and I'm
Like,
good.
what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
So leading up to your WPT championship win, like were you still on a downside, like a decline, and like this was kind of like your, I wouldn't call it resurrection.
Absolutely.
But like it's
So there was a couple things. I realized things were like I hadn't had a cash in a while. Things were horrible. I started working with a mindset coach, which Sam Chowhan, he's like a known guy. A lot of people worked with at the time.
Yeah.
Still love Sam. Think it was a very, I don't know if it's for everyone, but I think for where I was with confidence and focus, he helped a lot.
Was he the rubber band guy?
Yeah, that was one of the things.
I thought so. I'm not trying to diminish his other lessons, but yeah.
When you lose focus, kind of snap yourself back into it. We did a lot of positive affirmations, which at the time I thought was stupid. I'm like, sitting here saying I'm the best. Yeah, okay. But I think truly that does help you get your confidence back, like just repeating something over and over. We did a lot of meditation, a lot of breathing, a lot of visualizing, just a lot of things to kind of get me to learn how to focus and get my patience back. And I think that really helped. The results were there because even leading up to that WPT, I started cashing events again. I realized I was able to sit at the table and be more present, more aware of what my opponents were doing. It helped a lot. But for that WPT, 25K buy-in, as you guys know, I was always a little bit tight with money in some ways. I was like, do I really want to put 25K up? Like, I didn't know if I had the confidence, but I wasn't sure. So I went to 3 friends, Phil Ivey, Nick Schulman, and Joe Cassidy. And I was like, look, I want to put up 10K. Do you guys each put up 5K for equal share, no markup? And
It's a good deal.
they were all like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that helped a lot too, knowing that Nick Schulman, Joe Cassidy, and Phil Ivey all believed in me still. And like, now I look back on it and like, at the time, it's just fucking 5K. Like, I've put random
Like-
people who I don't believe in.
You mean a check raise? Yeah, sure, you got it.
I've
You
had
got it,
friends
kid.
who are like, who are struggling, and they're like, "Hey, can you help me? You buy me this tournament?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, here you go, bud." And I'm like in my head thinking, I just lost that money, but whatever. But at the time, I was like, these guys believe in me, and I went in and I bought in, and I was so confident. It was very strange. I've never had a premonition before. Before that tournament, I've never had one after. But the night before, I had this fucking vision of me in this blue shirt holding up the money. It's so spooky how it was in color, and it was like everything about it. It felt like I'm very scientific. I'm very like, prove it to me. I don't believe in all this kind of bullshit, like the afterlife ghosts. I'm like, yeah, that's all garbage. But for some reason, I was like, this is fucking weird. I'm gonna win this tournament. And I remember on day 1, I had a killer day when I late bought, and I came in like super late, was a chip leader. A couple days later, I take a real bad beat, and I lose a lot of my chips, like 80% of them, and I'm short. And Josh Aryeh, who had become really close with me, comes over, and he saw the beat, and he's like, and he rubs me on the shoulder. He's like, hang in there, don't tilt. And I look at him, and I go, I'm still gonna win. And he looks at me, I was like, doesn't matter. And he was like, okay. And he kind of walked off. And an hour later, I have all the chips back again, and I was like, I'm gonna win this tournament. And every day I went home, it was eerily similar to when I got second in the main event. My girlfriend at the time, we lived together at Panorama. I would go home, and they finished early at Bellagio. It was like you would play, the sun would still be out.
the
You would
fucking
finish at
schedule
like
there.
7:30 or 8, but it was in May or spring, so the sun would still be out. I remember I would go home and just sit in the bed, didn't really want to talk to her, and I would put on like old seasons of Survivor, and I would just sit there, and we would order Thai food. I would barely eat, and she would be like, so how was your day? I'm like, it's good. And I kind of just sat there for 7 days. And I would fall asleep, wake up the next day, repeat. And it was just, it was like I was in a trance. And I was so certain I was going to win. But I've never felt that way. Like nothing fazed me. Like when I would lose a hand, whatever. And like when I would get all in sometimes, and I would just know I'm going to win this hand, and I would just win. It was spooky. And we get to that final table. And I remember Sean Buchanan and me got all in. He had queens, and I had nines with like 4 left or 3 left. And normally and every other time when I've been in that spot, I'm like, please. I'm like, oh God, I'm just like, you're like, fuck man, please one time. You just hope because you're just 5% or you're just doomed. And I remember I sat there and I was just like so confident a 9 was coming. And if you watch that, if you go back and watch that, you see me, I don't look like I give a fuck that he has queens. And the dealer just fans a 9 and I don't even flinch. I'm just like, yep. And then he's gone. I'm like, good plan, bro. And he's out of here. And it's like almost like I felt bad. Like there's nothing you could do, man. That 9, like I'm going to win this tournament. And baseball, great player, great guy, love him, tough. The deuces, I was just like so certain this is the time. Like when he shoved on me, and I know a lot of people like you call with deuces, it's pretty bad when you think about it. Like what could they have? Never gonna have ace 3, ace deuce. But I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna win. And even if I lose, I still have chips, and I'll just still win. So I'm gonna win. Call. And then deuce on the turn. I was like, and then it all came out of me. Like when I realized this week ended, I can now show emotion. I kind of fell on the floor crying because I could finally let it out because I'd had it all in for a whole week. And it was like the weirdest feeling, and I've never felt that way before. It was like destiny. And then that pose, the pictures, the card player cover was what I envisioned. Now granted, I know it so I can hold the chips up, but I still, like everything about it felt like it was destiny. It was the spookiest shit ever. And I'm like, I don't believe in that kind of shit, but that was
for that week,
that was
you
a
did.
weird week, man. Like I look back on it, like, that was weird as hell.
That's incredible.
I'm like, it made me like we are in a simulation that was like supposed to happen. I somehow tapped in and like knew, and like this is spooky, but it was really weird, really weird. Wow. I mean, I'm sure the confidence of you're gonna win gave me the confidence to make these raises and like run people over. Like a lot of things I remember, I think back to some sick ass hands where like I 4-bet people in weird spots and they just folded that like I think I would never make because I'm like, oh, what if they call and then I'm out? But back then I was like, I'm gonna win, 4-bet this guy, and they just folded. I was like, that's what I thought.
That's why, like, all the medical studies were like, oh, like, it's a placebo. It's like, it doesn't matter if placebos work. It still fucking works. It doesn't matter if they're real or not. Like, if you can mentally get behind it, it's very powerful.
Yeah, that's the mindset. He seems like you need that to be a killer.
You know what I just realized? I did have one weirdly similar incident. It was at the Bay 101. There was this WPT,
The Shooting Star.
Shooting Star,
love
and
that
me and Joe Cassidy were like going to some restaurant or whatever. And like, I took a nap in the car and I woke up and I was like, man, I'm gonna get 4th. And he goes, what? And I was like, the tournament tomorrow that starts? I was like, I'm gonna get 4th. He's like, that's pretty specific and weird. I was like, yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna get 4th. Fast forward 5 days later, I'm at the final table, right? And I'm like, oh God, I keep thinking I'm gonna get 4th. And I had and Nam Lee ended up winning, but I had the chips. And I was like, oh God, don't get 4th, don't get 4th. And then when there was 4 left, I was like, oh my God. I was like, how do I not bust? Like, can I just fold everything? And like, it was the weirdest shit and it was fucking with me. I was like, oh my God, I like prophesized 4th, but I don't want to get 4th. What do I do here? And then I end up in a spot where I know I have to go all in, but I was like, if I fold here, I maybe fade 4th. But maybe that's how I get 4th. So I just played poker and I lose and get 4th. And it was the spook. And I remember I'm in the car with Joe and I'm like, I said I was going to get 4th, but I don't know if I like fucked it up.
If you manifested
like,
it or,
like what the hell is going on? He's like, that's the creepiest shit ever though. You told me 5 days ago, you're like, I'm going to get 4th. And like, you just get 4th. I was like, man, this is bullshit. Yeah. So that was another weird, I don't know what's going on here, man. Like, I wish I thought I was going to get 1st or 2nd some more. Like, can I envision some wins? Like, what the fuck's going on?
A better dream.
But I've never had anything like either of those two situations, which is really weird.
Which is why you put so much stock in them. Like, you know, if you had them like every day.
Yeah, if you had it every day, you'd be like, yeah, but.
Yeah, we have a friend that like every other day is like, I have a feeling I'm going to win this next tournament.
And I've
like,
said that and felt,
okay.
but it's never been genuine. Those were two like legit prophecies. Like, I said it as fact, and that was weird.
Well, I don't want to interject myself too much in the WPT championship that you won, but I was really good friends with Eric Baldwin.
Of
when
course,
he beat Heads Up.
I knew. Yeah, you were on his rail, I think, at the final table.
There's 2 things that didn't happen after that final table. One, they never had it in the Fontana Lounge anymore.
Oh God, it was the greatest
amazing.
place to play poker.
It really
ever.
was. At the Bellagio, they basically turned this like.
The next year was at Fontana Lounge too.
That's right, but
the final table.
Yeah,
wasn't.
the final table was not. It was over at the other thing. And the other thing they took away after that one is they did not allow alcohol or served alcohol into the rails, because our rails specifically, we tried to buy them out of alcohol as hard as we could. And I don't know if you heard anything. It sounded like you were dialed in and probably didn't hear anything we said. But I will apologize if you did hear anything that we said.
Oh yeah, I was in such a weird zone that like nothing mattered.
Yeah, we probably had like 30 people deep, all just rip roared and like yelling the dumbest.
Oh,
whatever,
absolutely.
You know, we were all 30 at that time or whatever.
I can't even like blame you. Like, yeah. And some idiot calls with deuces like and beats our boy. I'd be like, what the fucking moron?
When you called, we were like yelling at you, like, we can't lose this. It's impossible to lose. He called with deuces. He's going to get punished. Obviously, he's going to get punished.
Yeah.
And the turn, and everyone was just like.
You guys didn't know.
Yeah.
You knew the prophecy.
We had no idea. Plus,
it was written.
Yeah, and me and Eric had a big swap that year actually too. So
my condolences.
Fuck you a little bit, buddy.
My condolences.
You know, I mean, I enjoyed me getting paid out, but still.
There was shit talking going on at some point.
One of the coolest things is when that ended, getting to call Phil, because they were in Monte Carlo, because EPT Monte Carlo started. Technically, I was thinking about going, and they all wanted me to hop on a plane the next morning, fly to Monte Carlo, and play the EPT. And I got to call Phil Ivey, the little European ring.
Yeah.
He answered hello. I'm like, I won it. That's all I said. I won it. And he was like, for real? I'm like, where do you want the money? He's like, oh shit, put it on my deposit. I was like, you got it. And got to hang up the phone. It was just the coolest thing to just,
dude,
I won it.
What a great conversation to have with Phil Ivey, fucking legend. And you just be like,
got it.
I won you
Got
20% of $2 million or whatever it was, 1.8. I don't know.
1.7.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice. What year was that?
2010.
Oh man.
I won it. It's done.
It's like you're a hitman and you just like polished off the person. And you're like, bag drop later. Job's done.
He was like, get your ass on a plane to Monte Carlo. And I was like, nah, man, I'm going to bed. I'm tired.
That's so cool.
Yeah, man, it was awesome.
All right, that is it for part 1 with David Williams. But lucky for you guys, there is a part 2 where you get to hear all about Black Friday, MasterChef, and the crazy shit that happened there, and his $1 million Floyd Mayweather bet. So if you guys want to get that a little bit early, sign up to the newsletter. There's a good chance that I will finish editing it, and we will push it out before next Saturday. So
Go to table1.vegas, find the newsletter, sign up, and we will get that out to you. All right, see you next week.
Ay, me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money. Whoa, you know I've been in my bag, yeah. Buddy, I got it like that, yeah. Y'all better stop. Me and my boy gon' climb to the top. Sidekick game like Calvin and Hobbes. Batman and Rob. Y'all know me, I'm down for the cause. Y'all know us, we start the party. Go way back like